This is a standard Hawley labial bow. It emanates from the acrylic on the lingual side, generally between the cuspid and first bicuspid. It is made so that the loop travels up and around the gingival margin of the cuspid, across the labial surfaces, to the opposite side, repeating the same action, and then exiting into the acrylic. The adjustment points for this labial bow is the loop portion of the Hawley, the right angle where it exits to the labial surface, and you can also adjust anywhere along the facial aspect of the labial bow to place direct pressure against an individual tooth. But generally speaking, the labial bow is used to maintain the position of the anteriors by tightening the teeth against the acrylic which support it from the lingual. In the example shown here, the very active turning of the screw would be sufficient to cause the labial bow to put pressure against the flared-out central. So let's go through those adjustments. The first adjustment is this opening of the loop. This is simply accomplished by taking the round portion of your 139 birdbeak pliers inside as far back into the throat as you can, which creates an anchor stabilizing the wire. Then, simple pressure pushing up with your finger, opening the loop. Then go to the other side and repeat the adjustment. By opening the loop, the labial bow comes forward, but it also lifts it gingivally, which is a move that we don't want, so you have to compensate for that movement. The next step, then, is to adjust this portion of the right angle bend to compensate and level the labial bow. That is simply done by taking the pliers, once again putting the round portion on the inside of the adjustment loop and pressing downward. The compensatory move here is to put upward pressure from the index finger and roll the pliers against it to then straighten that bend back up. Going to the other side, we'll do the same thing, putting the round portion of the plier on the inside of the bend and rolling your wrist with the pliers and pressing up with your index finger, then levels it back out. In the mouth, you'll see that the labial bow is now away from the teeth. So in this example, where you need to develop the arch to create space for the laterals so they can move out labially, as you expand, then the labial bow is going to tighten and pull against the anteriors. If you do not want that movement to occur, you're going to need to open up the loop so that the labial bow can come forward without putting pressure on the anteriors. The idea is that we want to keep light contact with the anteriors, but not put unnecessary pressure against them when we do not want a lingual movement. And at the same time, we want to keep them in the center of the clinical crown. The following adjustments will bring the labial bow forward and yet maintain it center in the clinical crown. Where possible, finger pressure is to be preferred over pressure from the use of a pair of pliers, so use the pliers as a portable vise, taking the round portion of the birdbeak pliers and putting it on the inside of the omega loop as far down into the throat of the plier as we can, and then taking the plier and your index finger and rotating your wrist while putting upward pressure with your finger. Go to the other side and repeat the same exact motions. What you can see is that the labial bow comes forward, but it also rides up gingivally, so we have to do a compensating bend to bring the labial bow back into position. The compensating bend is made at the right angle bend, where the loop then exits to the horizontal component of the wire on both sides. Once again, placing the round portion now on the inside of this bend, grab hold and apply downward pressure while rotating your plier in a clockwise motion. If you over-adjust or wish to tighten the bow, the procedure is exactly the opposite of what you've just done. A bayonet bend can also be used to move a particular tooth within the labial bow. In this case, a bayonet bend will be placed so as to put direct pressure against this rotated central. First, place a mark directly over the point that we want to put the bend. This allows you to know where to place your pliers. Next, using 3-prong pliers, place the 2 prongs below the mark and the single prong directly on the mark and gently apply pressure on the labial bow. Place the appliance back into the patient's mouth. You can see that it has placed direct pressure against the intended tooth. However, it has also pulled the labial bow away from all the other teeth, so in order to compensate, we will now place an auxiliary bend directly next to the V-bend that we placed. Putting the 2 prongs on top of the wire and the right prong directly over the mark, we simply give it another bend in the other direction. Then place it back on the patient, and you can see that the pressure is still focused on the intended point, but now the labial bow is back touching the teeth for the most part. Now here's what not to do. A common mistake in adjusting the labial bow is to use a pair of 3-prong pliers to adjust the loop. Improperly placed adjustments can shorten the life of the wire, and what happens is now the labial bow must flex a great deal in order to accommodate the teeth, and that point of flex will now be transmitted to this now very short curve, which will work hard and eventually fracture.